Hey. Welcome to Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I am your host. I am Shane McLain, and this is my little kitten, Sammy. He wants to say hello. Hello. And of course, there's the dumb one, Cheese. But glad to have you all here. Tonight, we have the saga continues here of this Enfield mystery. We have been talking the past couple weeks about the infamous Enfield house, and it has gotten to where I have to continually bring this guest back because it gets more and more and more interesting. And there's so much to tell that you can't fit all of it into an hour. So this is the third of the series that we have. So let's bring the man, the myth of the house on, Jay Yaples.
Hey guys. Hey
Hey,
Shane.
hey. Oh, glad to have you back, man. This is the third of the series, man. This is the third. We've covered a lot from where you were, in the military, to actually buying the house, the reason why you bought the house, some of the things that were going on. And the last thing that you mentioned there before we cut it off last time was Father Bob Bailey.
Yes, Father Bob.
So we are going to let it start right there. So this is where Father Bob comes into the picture. Now you wanna just recap on everybody on what actually brought him there.
Okay. So as we were looking for more and more experienced paranormal investigator teams because, as you guys know, all paranormal investigators are not the same. You got people who are thrill seekers, and that's what they like, and there's something wrong with it. And you have people, you have different levels. Well, we were going through, and there was not a lot then. So when we started finally fine tuning, because we were going through paranormal teams and priests like hotcakes, right? When they come in and they saw the intenseness, they were like, you know what? They didn't want to say, you know what, this is over my head.
Did anybody ever tell you that before you go? Did anybody ever tell you that they felt like it was beyond their help or reach?
Yes, in the early days, that young kid who came in, I'm not going to mention his name, but he in the beginning he jumped in, and then when he saw what he saw, he's like, you know what, this is pretty much above my pay grade. Just like, and then he actually got out, I heard, for a little bit, and then he came back in, and then, but you know what's going on right now. So so he was honest. He's like, I don't have no idea, and I don't want to mess with it,
Yeah.
And so he was lucky because he got out unscathed. If he stayed longer, who knows? He could have had a mental breakdown. He could have had something physical happen to him. And that's what people don't realize. It's not just a physical attack. I've seen people lose it.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that as we go on. And, and it's weird how that happens, because if you're having something mentally happen to you, you're the last one to know. But people who are seeing you and around you, they see that you're getting messed up, and you can't save them. You just got to put your hands up and let them go away. So as this is happening, we started going through teams. And the one that we had, we really thought happened to be CPRS, which was Orlando. And we just got done when they I don't know if I covered the part where that woman got picked up and thrown 8 feet down the hall.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Rain refused to come out. And I verified that through Orlando, and he said, no, that really did happen, because his partner has an alternative thing to him. But I verified it because I was kind of, getting to the point. I was confused. Anyhow, we were looking for so I had calls out to all kinds of people. So this one gentleman, his name was Bob Baker. On his thing, it says he deals with the severe cases, the demonic. He works with the clergy and everything. So our initial, as I'm going to recap fast, Shane, because we got a lot to cover. So
I know.
Our first initial phone call turned into be a crazy phone call because halfway through it, a voice, and I couldn't hear it on my end. He only heard it on his end, and it said it was going to kill him. And he's like, "That's not funny." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You just said that you were going to kill me." I said, "I never said that." So he was smart enough to realize there's something going on. And then again, halfway through, it told him he was going to die. And he finally said, "You know what? I cannot put one foot in that house without a member of the clergy." He goes, "I've been involved in some of the really, hardcore cases." He goes, "If this is true, what you're telling me," he goes, "I can get wiped out." He goes, "I've been scratched, I've been thrown, I've been bitten." And he says, it's a fight. Hey guys, so as this is happening, he's coming in and he's doing, we're talking on the phone. So the first guy he brings in was a gentleman named Father Bob Ale. And so we got Father Bob a hotel, for the night like he wanted. And so when Father Bob came in, I think initially he thought it was average investigation, like going out, having tea and going around and doing things. Well, it started out like that. But like I said, and I don't call it a demon, but this entity studies you. It looks for, and I told people, I said, it's like a nutcracker. It's going to look like in your head for that combination lock. And it's going to keep picking until it breaks you. So Father Bob came in, he's running to the house and they're going to their rooms and, everybody's having fun. But now it figures them out. So what it goes, and that's why I said it goes after where it's going to get you. So Father Bob, they decided to go back to investigate. Father Bob says, "Hey Bob, hey guys, where's my rosaries?" And now this is where he got them. These rosaries are not just any rosaries. These rosaries are very special. They were given to me by somebody very special. They're very old. And so everybody stopped. And we had a whole team of like 6, 7 people. There were even a psychics. And we had some mediums in there. And he's checking his pockets because he thought maybe he put them in his pockets. And he cleared his pockets. And he looks at me and Oka. Now, in the beginning, we're scared. We're like, what the heck's going on? Because we weren't in the paranormal. We're reaching out to these guys for help, and we're looking at these guys like Superman, right? Not realizing these guys are just like us. So as he's walking to us, because our dog starts acting weird, and all of a sudden he stops, and it was like the movie from a Clint Eastwood movie. He freezes, and he slowly looks down, and his rosaries are hanging out of his pocket. He could feel something like, imagine it's having an entity slide your rosaries into your pocket.
What?
And, yeah.
So he didn't have them before?
No. He looked everywhere. They looked everywhere. And we had people starting to run all through the house looking for him. So when he stood up, like I'll just kind of like around, he's going through his pockets and he's emptying his pockets out. And he's like, "Hey, Bob, where's my rosaries? We just had them." And they're like, "Father Bob, you had them on the table, Father." And they're like, so he looked at our faces, and my dog starts looking like he's about to get possessed. My dog, oh my God, what was his name? Gizmo. We were just talking about him. He's acting strange. So he starts walking to us to kind of like more of like to talk to us, to kind of console us, to check out what's going on. And as he's walking from the dining room into the living room where our couch was, he feels his rosaries get put in his pocket. So now, fun and games are over with, right? Like Pee Wee, fun time with Pee Wee Herman's. It's all done. Now they got to get serious. Now he's like, I think in his mind, I can't speak for him, but I think in his mind, he just wants to get out. Now, because he's never had nothing like this happen. He's a man of faith. Technically, hello, Raven. Technically, a priest ain't supposed to get touched, right? That's why I think it's going through his mind, but he's not showing it. He's starting to sweat and things are starting to go wrong. And Bob's looking at me. So, and they go through the whole house and they leave. So Bob's like, "Well, that didn't work out so well." He goes, and even Bob said, he goes, "I can't believe it took Father Bob's rosaries." And they were really, you could see they were like the wooden beads with the chain. They were really nice. It wasn't like the ones you go over to the church and get the plastic ones, you know. So these were really expensive. So luckily, the entity gave it back to them. But that's why I said it starts looking at you and it starts figuring out, well, what are you doing here? Are you going to be a threat to me? Are you going to try to get rid of me? And we didn't know that in the early days. We started learning as it's studying us, didn't realize I was starting to study him or it, right?
Mm.
You know, because like that old book made by Sun Tzu, The Art of War, right? Where it says, in order to win a battle, you know what? To know your enemy you've already won. To know where your enemy is, you'll know his next move. So we were trying to figure out what this entity was. So now we know, okay, it's not afraid of anything religious because it can pick up rosaries and it can put it into a priest's pocket. So that blows that theory out that priests are untouchable. So now as that's happening, Father Bob leaves, right? We don't hear from Father Bob at all. So now Bob goes, you know what? That's okay. He goes, I got somebody else up my sleeve. And that's the famous, well, what people call him famous, Bishop Robert McKenna. Now, Bishop McKenna was an exorcist, and Bob was telling me, and I didn't know this, he says, the bishop is one miracle away from being canonized as a saint. He said, in order to be canonized, from what Bob was saying, you have to have 3 miracles performed, and people have to witness them. So, and they said that there was 2 miracles already. One, he stopped time briefly, and it was witnessed by a whole bunch of people, right? And there was another one, I can't remember what it was. So he says, I'm going to call Bishop McKenna and see if he'll come up. So he calls him, and the bishop said, you know, Bob, I'm sorry. You know, I know that you need me, but I just retired. And Bob said, you know, Bishop, there's little children involved, babies. So the bishop was like, oh, what the heck, Bob? One more time can't hurt, right? So the bishop came out of briefly retirement to come up here. Now, guys, if this was just me telling the story, Shane, it would be like unbelievable. You'd be like, Jay, I think you're BSing me. There's no way this can happen. But now you got witnesses. Now you got people. We're bringing in like the big guns, right? So now what happens is Bob said the bishop is really kind of finicky. He likes to have like certain biscuits and deli meats. And I mean, so Bob said, you know what, you want to keep them happy. And so we planned a day. I remember it was on a Tuesday. So then all of a sudden, Bob goes up, he calls us up, and he's like, hey, he said, he goes, do you have all the bishop's things? I said, yeah, we got that. So he says, I'm 10 minutes away from the bishop's residence. He goes, I hope you know what this means, Jay. He goes, I got to ride all the way to your house with the bishop talking about God and Jesus, riding all the way back, listening to God and Jesus, and talking all about my character defects. So I said, I appreciate it, Bob. I said, so we hang up the phone, getting ready. I said, wow, okay. I said, I can't believe that we're having someone like Bishop Robert McKenna come in. And she says, it's not going to help because Elka's not a religious person. And and you know, some of the things that happened to me, and I believe I wouldn't be here today, you know, and people don't understand that when you face death and you shouldn't be alive, you come to believe, like the old saying, there's never a atheist in a foxhole. You come to believe. Right. So all of a sudden 5 minutes goes by. Bob calls back. He goes, you're not going to believe this. The bishop's secretary just called, and the bishop wrote on a piece of paper, he got struck with a mouth infection and lost his voice. He couldn't speak. So the bishop wrote on a piece of paper and said, tell the Yaples we're going to be out. And he said, Bob, I don't know if what happened to me came from the house. He goes, we have to be prepared. So Bob called, and I said, Bob, I said, you think this really could happen? He goes, no, in your house? Definitely. He goes, this thing does not want the bishop here. And he goes,
So the bishop hadn't even shown up at the house yet.
yeah, he hasn't even showed up at the house yet.
Wow.
5 minutes away, and the bishop's getting all ready, and then all of a sudden, he
Boom.
gets a mouth infection. Boom, he can't speak. So now he's writing things down. So he said, so now his strategy was, tell the Yaples that I'm coming out, that help is coming. But I'm not going to announce when I'm coming in case this entity decides to throw another curveball. Now, it's not uncommon for people to have car accidents and weird things happening to them. So they want to cover all bases. So one day, all of a sudden, the phone rings, and it's Bob Baker. He goes, are you guys home? If not, get home now. And it was weird because I had the day off from work. I was planning on taking the babies out to the park and doing things with them. So I said, yeah. I said, me and Uncle are home. He goes, don't go anywhere. He goes, we're going to be coming in. He goes, so make sure everything looks good in the house. So we're like, okay, so everything's fine. But we have a lot of, because where I live is like an international neighborhood. You got everybody from Italians, you got, you name it, we got it. So there's a lot of times kids will play games and they'll knock on your door and they'll run down the street. They think it's funny. So we're doing things. I hear this little knock. So I'm like, oh man, it's gotta be Josh and John playing games, right? Because they like, hey, Mr. Yaple. So I open the door, and I'm being in the military, I learned to swear. I'm like, who the? I'm like, oh man. And the bishop goes, we're gonna talk about that. And I'm like, I just swore in front of the bishop. And now he raises his finger, right? And as I'm talking about hard story stuff, I'm also going to tell a few jokes because you need to have like the yin and yang
Balance.
Yeah. So as he's doing that, he's walking and he looks to the side and he's like, I haven't started with it. He goes, I haven't started with your little buggers yet. He goes, and then he's doing this and he's looking in the corner and he's talking. So Bob's in front of me and the bishop's in front walking. So Bob turned around and I go like this. I said, it's crazy, right? As soon as I do that, Shane, guess what happens? The bishop turns around and sees me going, and now he goes, that's strike two, Jay. He goes, we're going to have a severe talk. I'm like, oh man. I said, I'm screwed, right? So as this is happening, he comes in and he says, really sweet guy, really, you could feel the love come out of him. There's some people that come to my house. I just want to pack them up in a cardboard box and send them going, But you could feel the love coming from him. And he was so sweet. And he said, tell me what's going on. He goes, this is an unbelievable story. He goes, you know what? This is real. So he goes to the house and he blesses the house. And he's just going through. He keeps looking. I know he feels it, and he knows he's throwing extra holy water where he's talking to these things. So at the very end, he's like, he rebaptizes the babies, and that was a funny thing because when you meet Elke, you're going to understand she's like a 5'2" German girl from Frankfurt, right? And she has a sense of humor, but it's dry. But she also will come, well, at least with me, come at you with a cast iron frying pan in the old days. So all of a sudden, the bishop goes to her. He goes, honey, he goes, can you go get me a bowl of water? That's funny. So Elke gets him a small bowl of water. She goes, here you go, bishop. He goes, no. And he goes, I want a bowl of water. So Elke goes out. Now she's patient. Gets him a bigger bowl. Here you go, bishop. He goes, no. He goes, I want a bigger bowl. So you can see Elke's face. She's ready to go off. So she comes out with a bigger bowl, and he says this to Elke. I don't think you're listening to me. He goes, when I tell you I want a bowl of water, I want a bowl of water. So get me a bowl of water. So now Elke's looking at me. I'm like, please don't swear. Please don't tell the bishop to go, So she goes out finally. After about 5 tries, she finds the biggest bowl she can. And she says, here's your bowl. I'm like, swear, right? Here's your bowl. And she puts it on the table. then he goes, Bob, grab the baby. So they put one of my daughters on the table, and he baptizes both of them. He goes, now now you know the babies have been baptized the right way, and you can tell people that Bishop Robert McKenna baptized their babies in your house. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So as he's going forth, he's like, do you want some holy water made? So I go in the basement. I come up almost like St. Pauli's girl. I got 4 gallons of Poland spring water. And he's like, that's a lot of water. I said, Bishop, I said, I'm in a battle. So he makes 4 gallons of holy water, and I still got a little bit left, and I save it. And so as he's making that, now, you know what happens? It messes with the bishop. Now, the bishop is blessing all of our crosses. You know, I should call them my crosses we're doing it. So, and the cross I have is upstairs. So he's blessing, and he has a little prayer book, and he picks up his holy water, and he goes back. Now, Shane, he reaches down automatically to get his holy water. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's cool. But you can see the cross that I got now is I got the cross of Jerusalem, this is almost like a Bible. People know the story behind it. There's many versions, so it's almost like a Bible, which you know, Bible means a library, pretty much.
Yeah.
I won't get into it on this one because it's paranormal, but they because I can preach to them. But anyhow, so anyhow, as he's flipping through the book, he goes down to get his holy water. It's gone. There's everybody around the table, and his holy water dematerializes right in front of a whole room of people. And he's like, Bob, where's my holy water? So now Bob, he's grabbing a vase of flowers. He's just grabbing things. That's the way Bob is. And he finally grabs the bishop's briefcase, and underneath the briefcase is a little bottle of holy water, which I'll show you. This ain't the actual bottle. I'll have to show you. Oh, I got it. Here we go. This actually came from Reverend Dan Todd. So imagine having a bottle like this.
That was like mine. Yeah.
And so he said, you know what? We're not done yet. We're not done. So he blesses all kinds of crosses, all kinds of things, you know, for the kids and everything. So then he gets serious with me. So he says, Elka, stay with the girls. I don't want them to hear this. So me and Bob go over, and he goes, Jay, he goes, we did everything what we could do. He goes, 2 things are going to happen. He goes, the first one is what we want. This thing is going to go away, pack its bags, it's gone. But it can pack its bags and leave. And when it comes back, it can come back with friends. So he said, we have to wait and pray to see what happens. Well, the bishop left, and we were the last case he ever did, Shane. He went into retirement, and a year or 2 later, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Bob sent me a picture of him upstairs in the house, and yeah, it was crazy. So now we got strike 2. Father Bob's out of the question, and now Bishop McKenna is gone. A few years go by, and Elka's like, it's ramping up. So I talked to Bob. He goes, call Father Bob Bailey. So, well, I'm going to back up for a minute because I'm going too fast. So the next step of Bob's plans is he says, Jay, Elka, I have all these major networks coming to me, and I just tell them to go pound sand. I don't want TV. I don't want whatever. He goes, I just tell them go away, and they keep calling and calling. So he said, you know what? I encourage you guys to do as many shows as it takes. Somebody out there is going to know how to take care of this. So the first one we did was on Animal Planet, and I'm going to tell you how it's got its name. This is crazy. So the lady who comes in happens to be, she worked in Hollywood. I don't know if I already went through this. I tell this story so many times. So if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. Just say, hey, Jay, keep going. So this girl comes in, and she happened to work in LA, and she worked with famous people like Mel Gibson. She was on the A-list. Well, what happened was how she got out here and how she got into the paranormal was she got her boyfriend flipped out, and it turned it very abusive. So her father said, "Get home." So she jumped on an airplane, left Hollywood, went to Pennsylvania, and she decided, you know what, to help her dad out, she needed a job. So she picked up the thing, and there was a person that needed a producer. So she just took it, right? She says, and it wasn't paying like Hollywood paying, but it pays her father's bills. So her name was Autumn, super girl. So she didn't believe in the paranormal, Shane. So what happens is she comes out to do a preliminary thing. So she was very strict. She told her camera girl, make sure everything's charged. So the next day, when the camera girl came over, she was, Autumn, you're going to kill me. And Autumn was like, what did you not do? She said, Autumn, I really did it. She goes, all 5 battery packs last night was charged. I know how strict you are. Every battery pack was charged. She goes, I've only been in the house. She goes, 10 minutes. All the battery packs are drained.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. So now, and now, you know, we're not talking about like little batteries. We're talking about big batteries for massive cameras. So Autumn she bit her tongue, and she's like, okay. She goes, charge them as we go along. So they were charging like every 5 minutes. They were dropping them like magazines, and right, and they were reloading, and that's how they got the first thing. So Autumn says to me, you know, Jay, do I believe in the paranormal? No. Have I ever seen a ghost? No. She goes, got this job that paid bills. She goes, let me see what the network says. If they want to do your story, we'll be back. So we got a phone call. She goes, I'm so happy. She goes, I like you guys. You guys are a great family, and I want to help you. So they come out, and we do animal plan. So now, the reason I'm telling you this is Autumn, we were over at the Hampton Inn, and she was, you know, we were doing all the interviews. And for anybody who hasn't done TV, it's not fun. It's awful. At least back then, I don't know if it changed. You sit in front of a woman or a man, and they have all these bright lights. And
I know. I did my haunted hometown off of one of my cases. I did one of mine, and we only filmed one day, and I don't want to do it again. So I definitely get it.
Yeah, and that's what Olga said. She goes, I'm done, because it's like being interrogated, because they make you say the word the. They say the, and it's like the, and it's like the, right? So what they do is they can piece a whole entire sentence out of words, and they can make you pretty much say anything you want by computers now. It's crazy. And that was way back in 2009. So could you imagine what they got now?
Oh, I know.
So as that happens, Shane, they leave. So Autumn turns around, comes up, gives me a great big hug, right? And she whispers in my ear, she goes, I'll see you soon. And I didn't know what she meant by that. Well, they left, and all of a sudden, a month goes by, and she says, this is weird. She goes, you need to get your family out of the house. So she goes, you need to get the family out of the house, Jay. You got to find some way to get out. So,
like, she's talking like permanently, like
yeah, like just drop everything and get out. So I said, we're trying. We're really trying. So she's like, a month later, she goes, Jay, really? I'm like, what's going on? So I finally said, what's going on? She goes, I'll talk to you. So finally, the show aired. And as we're watching it, the phone rings. I'm like, that's California. So I picked it up, and it was Autumn. She goes, Jay, that show was scarier than anything, right? She goes, they did it. She goes, what did you think of it? I said, it was a fantastic job. She goes, Jay, you really have to get out of that house. She goes, I don't know how many times I have to tell you. So why are you saying this? She says, when I came up to you and I told you I was going to see you, she goes, my plans, I was going to make a motion picture, and all the money I was going to make, I was going to donate it to your cause. So you can go out and buy a house, buy land, buy whatever. And she says, when I got back to, as soon as I got on the road, I had an illness that was in remission for 5 years. It came back. And she goes, I took a sabbatical, like a leave. And then she says, then at my dad's house, it's not haunted. All hell broke loose. And she goes, it was terrifying. My dad, everything. So she goes, she had a personal psychic back in LA. And she said, Autumn, she goes, whatever you did in Connecticut, it's attacking you. Now, Autumn said there's no way she could have known. So she jumped on the first plane and went back to LA. So when they were out there, she said they were looking for a name. So she said, you know what? She goes, I want to call it the Enfield Demon House based off her experiences. So it got its nickname as the Demon House. So that was the first one. Then the second one, John's office called Bob and he said, hey, he says, what do you think I can do to get in and see Jay and Elka, Bob? He goes, I know that you're on his case. And he goes, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So he says, I'll ask him. He goes, but there's one problem. And Bob's like, I knew there's a catch. And he says, no. He goes, it's all good. He says, I'm under contract with my company, The Haunted Collector. He goes, I'll talk to Jay and Elka. So I'm like, I don't want to do any more shows, Bob. Bob's like, do it. I'm telling you, you have to do it. He goes, maybe John can help you. If not, John's connected. He's got a lot of connections. So now John comes up and it happens to be on Easter. So now what happens is the producers and assistant producers are coming over to the hotel, babysitting the kids, buying them like little stuffed Easter bunnies. And one of the producers said, you know, John's getting messed with really bad at your house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, he can't wait to get out of your house. She goes, every time he goes into a crawl space or anywhere, he calls him, not John, but they call him probably what his mom called him, Johnny. So he'd go in on his hands and knees, and then you hear, Johnny, come here. So he'd come out and he'd be like, what's going on, guys? And they're like, Bob, John, we didn't call you. And he said, so John just crawls back in there. He comes out again. He goes, I told you guys, this ain't funny. He goes, I don't want to play any jokes. We're not. So as he goes in again, they call the big producers who are at the hotel. So they come flying over because they said, John's getting mad. We got a problem. So they come up and they're up there and they're not talking. They're just letting John crawl around. And all of a sudden, John comes out. He goes, I told you not to call me. And he goes, I'm on my hands and knees on rafters. And as soon as he comes out, he sees the big producer, like, what's going on? So they said, John, they called us in. Nobody called you. He's like, something's playing games. So we did that with John. And there's so much more that I could go on. Things that happened to John, the things that John and Amy saw. I mean, his kids are great kids, Amy and his son.
Yeah.
So finally, towards the reveal, John's like, well, yeah, you had twins. And he goes, what was that name? So Elka said, oh, it was these guys. I'm like, no, it was these guys. She goes, it was this guy. And John's like, shut the cameras off. Shut them off. What the? He goes, this is a whole new ball game. He goes, you're telling me there were 5 sets of twins in a house? He goes, this is a whole new ball game. So he says, he looked at the people, goes, why wasn't I informed of this? He goes, the house chose you. He goes, you got to get out. So Amy, his daughter, I remember the day right where she was standing right by the cellar door. She goes, oh my God. She goes, you guys got to get out. So, and they left. So a couple years go by and Bob's trying everything. And Bob becomes like family. We became so close that Bob would go down to Florida because Bob had a pool business and all the things. So Bob would go down to Florida and he would spend a month up at Disneyland. And he would come back. And when he came back, he would come over the house. And this is what a big heart this guy had. He's like, where's the kids? I'm like, why? What's going on? And I'm like, aren't you going to say hello? So when the kids came up, they were maybe 3 years old. They're like, hey guys, look what I got for you. He brought back all kinds of toys from Disneyland to give to the girls to make their day.
That's awesome.
That was amazing. So we get through that. So Bob's like, I'm not giving up. He goes, he got shoved, he got pushed, he got bit in the house. He goes, I'm never gonna leave you. He goes, you guys like family. But he goes, I'm getting tired, Jay. I'm closing my eyes. He goes, this house is wearing me out. So they brought back on Discovery a haunting. And one of the first houses they wanted to get into, I don't know how they heard about us. I have no idea. I don't know if it was from Autumn or somebody else said, hey, you got to get to Enfield. There's a house there. So they came up. Now, when I say this, it messes with you. It messes with you. So they don't film at the house. What they do is they have everything's down in Newport News down in Virginia, which is pretty funny because I used to live in Newport News when I was stationed down there. And so what they do, Shane, is they pretty much just drive by your house with a camera, right? And the door's open and they take a quick shot of your house. They want to get far away from a location. So they got me a hotel down in East Hartford. It's about over a half hour away. And so I go in there, and this is what the guy told me. He goes, if we can't go on location because things happen to us, our people bring stuff back with them. He goes, that's why we film far away. So we're gonna do your interview. Now, Shane, this is witnessed by 10, 15 people. It wasn't just Jay saying so. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there in a big room, and it felt like the old days, like I'm being interrogated by the CIA, right? He's asking me questions, like, again, the bright lights, and and the only thing that they could give him was like one of their ballrooms. So we had a ballroom. So behind me, they took a chair and they put a big plant on, right? And they put the plant behind me to give, I guess, I'm not a film, but to give some kind of focus. And all of a sudden, the director's asking me questions. I'm answering back, and I'm trying to get comfortable, right? Because I'm watching all these guys over here. Then all of a sudden, I see the guy's like, look, and the director's like, Jay, don't look at him. Look at me. Stay focused. And all of a sudden, the camera guy's like, what the heck, right? And all of a sudden, the director jumps off his chair, papers go flying, right? And he's like, you brought one of your friends with you. This plant was sitting on a chair. They watched it move. Watch this plant move. It was a heavy plant, right? And all of a sudden, it goes flying off the chair by 6 feet.
The plant?
The plant just goes, right? That's when the director threw his stuff in the air. He's like, what the heck? Because at first he's seeing it move, but he says, well, it's a heavy plant. The plant stood like this. It was an artificial plant. So he thought, well, maybe somehow the air conditioning blowing on it. But when it took off and flew across the room, he's like, time to cut. He goes, Jay, I'll buy you lunch. He goes, oh my God. He goes, you brought something with you. He goes, now you know why we don't film. So after that, I was like, I'm done. I said, I'm getting tired. I don't want to do no more. Bob's like, we got to keep going. I said, no, Bob, you don't understand. This is awful. And he goes, I get it. All of a sudden, Shane, I get a phone call from a woman. She goes, my husband and another guy can help you. I'm like, well, what can they do that everybody else hasn't done? Because now, here's a trivia question. You know what Animal Planet did? They brought in a real shaman. They pretty much paid a shaman to fly out to the house, to go through the house and offer a real blessing. And it was really cool because as a shaman's doing that, he said, no, if anybody tells you we're going to go close portals, we're going to do this and that, and they leave you alone, the shaman's like, no. He goes, this is your house. You have to take charge of your house. So he goes, you're coming with me. I'm like, I don't want to go. He goes, no. He goes, no, this is a real Indian shaman. He was like, no, you're coming. He goes, you're going to be a warrior this time. So I'm holding the Holy Bible, and the shaman's going through. And so he's got spiritual gifts. I'll give you that because he knows certain things. So he goes through the whole thing, and Bob Baker was there, and he looked at me, and the shaman grabbed my chin, and he looked at me, and he put my head. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And he goes, you got native in you. He goes, you're not 100% white. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So I thought, he goes, no. He goes, you have native in you. So he goes, we'll talk about that later on. He invited me to go, if I ever go up to where he was, to go into the sweat lodges and do the medicine wheel. He goes, I'll take you down and I'll bring you back. So I thought it was a pretty cool thing, but I never did. I always worked. So anyhow, I'm going to fast forward. So now what happens, Shane, is after Animal Planet, all these things up, so the guy calls, and the guy calls up. He goes, my name is J Dodd. I'm going to work trying to get him on the show. Now, J Dodd, he has a special gift. And he basically did not want a gift. And I'll give you a quick run because I really wanted to tell a story. Basically, he was pretty much a state trooper, but he was a highway patrolman up in Indiana. And I don't know what happened, but he didn't want to live, right? I mean, he wanted to die. He didn't want to live anymore. So he tried so many times to go over to the other side. And this one time, it wasn't like on purpose. He died, and they brought him to the hospital. And as they're working on him, the doctor was just about to call him deceased. He went and he stood before God. Now imagine this, you're not a totally religious guy yet, right?
Right.
Now God's coming to you and he says, what are you doing? And he says, I don't want to go back. Please let me stay here. And God says, no, I'm sending you back, but I'm also sending you back with a gift. And he says, no, you don't understand, God. I made it here. This is what I wanted. I'm not going back. God's like, you don't have a choice. You can't argue with God because he just like that. So he says, you're going back with a choice. The next thing he feels, boom, he gets sucked in his body. So he doesn't want to tell anybody because he thinks, well, maybe this was something to do with his brain, being a logical guy, smart guy, college guy, because he's thinking it's got to be something to do with the cortex.
People think he's crazy. Yeah.
So finally, he tells somebody, and they introduce him to another guy who was an old psychic medium. And he said, Jay, there's no way that he knew about my past. There's no way he knew about me. I just went to go see him. He said, Jay, he goes, you died. And he said, so Jay's thinking, well, all he had to do is look for accidents, whatever, maybe something like that. So he said, I did. He goes, you saw God, didn't you? And he's like, what? And he said, God sent you back with a gift. And he said, that's what God said. He goes, how do you know? He goes, God's telling me he sent you back with a gift. So Jay told me, he goes, I'm thinking it's going to be like the Karate Kid. He's going to teach me what I needed to do to help people because God said, you got to go help people. So he's like, I'm thinking wax on, wax off. And the psychic's like, you know what? If God gives you a gift, you got to use it. Good day. He's like, well, how do I use it? He goes, you figure it out. That's not my gift. So while that was happening, I'll make a long story short because I don't know how much time we get. So Jay goes into a hot tub and he's sitting there relaxing. And all of a sudden he sees, and then something grabs him and tries holding him under the water. Now he realizes, you know what? These aren't humans. These are demons. They're coming for him because now God gave him a gift and there's a target on his back. So make a long story short, he figured out that he had a gift and he was helping people and he could do remote viewing. So when he saw the show, he thought, well, what can I do if all these people failed? So then he gets a phone call from another guy named Reverend Neil Farley from Washington. And they said, we got to get up there. So J. Dodd tried to look as a remote viewing through his guides. And he said, and whatever was in the house knew it stopped him. And Jay said, for the first time ever, he goes, Neil, we got to go to Connecticut. I'm going to go forward, but I want to go back to this thing because every single thing that could happen to Jay happened to him. As soon as he decided to take the case, him and his wife went out to dinner, came back, his whole downstairs was flooded, his hot water tank exploded. Jay's like,
wow.
yeah. Jay's like, Jay, that happens. It's not paranormal. Gets it fixed. Then something else happens. So Reverend Farley calls up. He goes, I don't know if Jay Dodd's going to come out, but I'm going to still try to make it. I go, why? He goes, we haven't gone to your house. And he goes, he's having a lot of weird coincidences, things happening at his house. So they decide to pick a night where it's going to be clear, no storms in sight. The Rev's going to come up, pick up Jay, all right, from Washington to Pennsylvania, and they're going to make it up. As soon as they start coming up, a storm starts to brew. And Reverend Farley says, we got to stop. We got to turn around. And he goes, no. He goes, Neil, this thing from Jay's house is creating the storm. We got to go to Connecticut, keep pushing. So and they kept going. The more they came to Connecticut, it threw everything at them. Snow, sleet, freezing rain, car accidents. They're dodging things. They were supposed to get to the house 2 p.m. They didn't get to the hotel till 11 o'clock at night. So they get there and they do their whole thing. And they're like, the next day they call me up. Now the heat's on me, Shane, right? Because he said, how's the house feel? Great, I bet. If everybody's happy. As I'm talking, I had the downstairs at the time opened up into a single family house. And I'm walking around the house and I look up the staircase and this thing's pretty bold. I see this shadow. I said, Jay, it's here. He goes, it can't be. He goes, we'll talk when I get there. So they come back over, they get the hotel for a second night and they're paying for everything. So Jay Dart starts to interrogate me like a state trooper. And he goes, come on, Jay. He goes, what's the gig? He goes, you've had Bishop this, we had this and this and that. He goes, we were here. He goes, what's the gig? He looks up. This entity's coming down the stairs. And he's like, Neil, it's here. And Neil's like, it can't be. And then Neil sees it. It's blacker than black. And it's like, hey guys, I'm here. So what happens next is they rent the hotel for another day. They come over and like, what do we miss? They also had set up around the world a prayer chain for us, for people to pray. And now this time Neil says, you know what? Jay, he goes, we didn't ask for the hand of God to be placed on the house. We didn't ask permission from the family to have God come in and put the hand of God on them. So they asked God if we were okay to have God come in and put his hand up on the house. So we're like, okay. And we did all the prayers. They did the whole thing again. The next day they called, and it felt like a whirlpool. The house felt like it was cleansing itself. It felt light, for 2 weeks. It was like, wow, it was really great because the kids were laughing, they were playing, Elko was whistling again. I said, it worked. Everything worked. So in the process, I got into a severe car accident that left me disabled. So we ended up converting the house back to a duplex through my realtor. So what happens is she gets supposed to be a long-term renter. The lady was already 14 years at one place. So she said, this lady's going to be a long-term renter. Within 6 months, she's begging to get out of the lease through Section 8. She like, I don't want to be here. And I'm like, why? She goes, oh, I got a better apartment in Section 8. I want to go there, And Section 8's like, don't let them leave. They do this a lot. They figure there's going to be, gold at the rainbow, whatever. They said, if you break the lease, Jay, we might not use you again for Section 8 or for whatever. So she said, keep the lady in the house. So we told her we couldn't break it. The very first, as the day that the lease was up, she had a moving van. She had about 20 guys coming in. They were in and out within like 15 minutes. So as that happens, I call Bob. I'm like, Bob, I said, holy cow. I said, she left. And Bob freaked. Bob's like, I'm coming up. Whatever you do, do not go next door. I'm like, why? He goes, Jay, this thing could be waiting for you like an ambulance. Yeah. He goes, don't go next door. There's a reason why she left. He goes, you go next door. He goes, you're alone. So Bob dropped all his tools, dropped everything he was doing. He was down by Greenwich Village. He comes flying up, right? He must have been doing 80, 90 miles an hour. He gets up here. and we decided to come over. And Bob's looking, and he's like, aha. She took black ash above all the windows, small, and she made the sign of the cross. He goes,
She did that in the apartment.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
He goes, yeah. He goes, she was trying to protect herself. He goes, that's more of a protection. She goes, she did something. She opened up something.
Yeah.
She's terrified. So Bob's like, he goes, pray. He goes, pray that this thing does not come back. So I talked to J. Dodd. I talked with the Reverend Furley, and they did some remote. And then this went on, and all of a sudden, J. Dodd, my daughter Courtney would call J. Dodd, and they would talk, and he would help her. They would pray and they do different things. So one day, Jay goes, Courtney, can you put your dad on the phone? And she goes, is everything okay, Mr. Dodd? He goes, everything's fine, sweetie. He goes, put your dad on the phone. So now what happens is Jay said, I can't get involved in a house. I'm like, what happened? Now this is where you're going to see the entity, how strong it is. It went to J. Dodd and said, I want you to leave the house alone, and I want you to get out of the field and stop helping people. So J. Dodd was like,
oh, hold on. You just said the entity came to him?
Went to him when he was all right. He was laying down, I guess, and don't quote me verbatim because I'm going back 10, 15 years, but I'm going back. I remember he said he was like kind of like translucid in between sleep, and this entity sat on his bed and told him to get out of the paranormal, stop doing this stuff.
Wow.
And J. Dodd says, I'm not afraid of you. I'm a man of God. Get behind these, Satan. And it's like, he goes, I know who you are. He goes, you know who I am? He goes, leave. And Jay says, no, I'm not leaving that family. He goes, you don't believe me? He goes, I'll show you. I'll show you what I can do. A few days later, J. Dodd drops, boom, massive heart attack, flatlines.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it gets crazier, right? This is like science fiction. He gets transported to the hospital. He flatlines. They bring him back. He dies 3 times, right? Then they bring him back. They get him stabilized. And he's laying in bed, and he looks at the end of the bed, and the entity's there. And the entity says, now do you know who I am? And I don't know what happened between him and the entity, but there was something done where the entity was supposed to stay away. And by staying away, he couldn't talk to Courtney. He couldn't help out. And he said, I hope everything's okay. And I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like craziness. So he said, I never had a health issue before. He goes, when he said it was going to show me, I didn't know what he meant. But all of a sudden, it was like that. So he was down. Neil was like, you know what? Nothing happened to me. Nothing happened to me. Well, I'm going to fast forward. So when J. Dodd, I'm going to back up. When J. Dodd left and when he got home, him and his wife were saving up for a big vacation to Mexico. Next thing I know, as soon as he gets home within 3 days or 2 days, he's putting out, asking for prayer requests that something happened to his wife. She almost died. She got some kind of weird illness, something like that. He goes, please pray for Marianne. He goes, she's one step away from the deathbed.
Wow.
So now that happens to him. Now, all these little things are adding up, like pure coincidence. I don't know. So now that's when that thing happens. So now Jay says, I'm down. So I'm talking to Reverend Farley, and he's like, look, nothing happens to me. I'm like, don't do that, Neil. He goes, I'm a man of God. He goes, what happened to Jay? I don't know. So he's bragging all this and that. So I don't know if his dog died or something like that. We had a beagle, and I had to go back down towards Langley, down in Virginia. So I took my dog Snoopy, who was the beagle, and I knew how much Neil loved him. So I brought him down. I said, Neil, do you like Snoopy? He goes, oh my God, I love Snoopy. I said, he's all yours. I gave my dog to Neil because just to make him happy. And Neil's like, really? And I said, yeah. So we were always talking, but then something happened. He phased out. He didn't say, he just kind of went his own way.
Jay, we're gonna have to find a good stopping point. So do get to it, because we've got like a minute or two left.
Okay.
But just find a good stopping point right here, because I do want to have you back, because this story will be complete.
Okay.
This story will be complete. Let's find a good stopping point.
Okay. So we're gonna stop at my car accident and what happened and what I saw.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop there, but I also want to show you to let people know, if they're, I don't know who's watching, but I don't believe the entity ever left. We were told by a German psychic that it was sleeping, and this was the video. I sent it to you, right? And we had an investigation, and that night, right, I'm sitting there. I go to reach down in the book. We got a whole bunch of people. I'm reaching a book to get stuff, but the whole time my shoulders like, what the heck is wrong?
The thing's sitting on your shoulders.
Yeah, and that's what the video shows. And the guy who, now the paranormal investigator, he's not just an investigator. If you know what he did and what he does for work, you're gonna know how credible this guy is. So this guy, I'm just gonna show it as we're talking.
It's 17.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
sitting on your shoulder. Really? Like straight up sitting on right here. Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. I saw that. I showed Angie earlier too.
That's creepy. Yeah. So we'll stop there, Shane.
Let's stop right there. And listen. We have to finish this. We have to finish it. I mean, I knew it was going to take quite a while to do it. Next week, I have a special guest lined up for next week, but the week after, I'd like to have you back again and see if we can't find a completion to the story, because this story needs to be told, Jay.
Okay. What is that? Is that the 13th?
Yes.
That might be tough. Hey, we got to.
Well, just let me know. Let me know, and then we'll work around it somehow.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, because this is going to take a while, so people know that what's going on, because a lot of people don't know Enfield and they don't know what we're about. But hopefully, we can bring light to them, and we can bring it all the way up to 2025.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's always fascinating with you. But I look forward to having you back, and I look forward to having another conversation with you. And I will talk to you really soon. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, brother. Hey, thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you guys, everybody that was watching, everybody that was commenting and everything. I can't see them, but I definitely appreciate it. My wife was probably on commenting to you guys. I appreciate you for coming on. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions, have any comments for Jay or anybody, and we will definitely get them answered and get back to you. But stay tuned, because Jay's not going very far. We're going to have him back, and we are going to close out the Enfield saga. You guys have a good week. I got a special guest next week, and I will talk to each and every one of you soon. Stay safe, be blessed always, and stay spooky, people. Peace.
Peace out. Take care, guys.